Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Boy, there's been a lot going on in the news in the last 24 hours or so, day and a half. It seems like there's just a flood of various different things going on. And any one of them, if you looked at them on the surface, you might say, well, that's just more junk in the news. But reading through it over the last couple of days, I think that there's a lot of connection with a lot of it. And I'm going to cover a few things today. There's way too much going on to cover it all in one video. But I do want to try to put a few pieces together in the puzzle. I think that there's just this sense that there's something getting ready to happen. I think a lot of you feel the same way. There's a little thing that I do to try to do my best to get a feel for what's going on or how people are reacting to this. Because, you know, just by going, say, in the comments on one of my videos, you know, that's no offense, but it's kind of an echo chamber. Most of the people watching my videos are like-minded people. So I'm trying sometimes to get a sense, a feel for the greater population. One of the ways that I do that is I go through Twitter and I look for news articles that are posted by mainstream news sources. And then I read the comments because I figure that's a better way to get a sense for what the general population is thinking and feeling. And I've noticed over the last several days in doing this, I have seen numerous posts from people saying that this is America collapsing, the West is collapsing, we're at the end of this run for this country, on and on, that indicates that a growing number of people, probably not just preppers, just, you know, folks like you and I, are starting to wake up and realize that there's a whole lot more going on. Way more, something deeper, something behind the scenes, and it's falling apart around us. And so I want to talk about some of those things here in just a minute. Russia, Ukraine, poll numbers, you know, the that's you know, happening, all that kind of stuff here in just a minute. Before I get started with that, I just want to mention, if you are, which you should be, continually prepping up, stack it to the rafters, folks. I know costs are going up. We just went grocery shopping yesterday, and I couldn't believe the price increase. And I'm just basing on the amount of food that was in the grocery basket, based on, and then comparing that to what we paid for it. There was a pretty decent increase over what we would normally pay. So I get it. Prices are going up. Money's becoming thinner. You have to stretch it further, but you still need to be stacking it to the rafters as much as possible. You'll be thankful of that in the end. One way to do that is through a company called My Patriot Supply. I've worked with them for a while. They produce a really great product. This is freeze-dried, shelf-stable stuff that's going to last 15, 20, 30 years. That doesn't need to be the only thing that you prep. It's good to have some of it set aside, like I've said in previous videos, for the immediately after some type of collapse, the immediate after it starts to get really bad. You don't have to worry about what you're going to cook, how you're going to do it. You're in a high stress situation, a lot of panic in you. Even if you're prepared, you're still, you know, panic. The stock market crashes, the, you know, dollar crashes, the grid goes down, all these different scenarios. With this, you don't really have to worry about it. You crack it open, you add some hot water, and you have a good meal. And it's a good way to kind of transition you into living in a world where you're really living off of your preps for a while or a very extended period of time. So if you go to preparewithtravis.com, you can find some really good prices. They're still running some good sales. Even with all the increase of prices out there, they're still trying to keep their costs and their prices as low as possible for you before it's kind of too late. So preparewithtravis.com. All right, now let's get to the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. More fear. Be terrified, folks. Be terrified. Just yesterday, Biden was talking about this, and he was trying to tell people, Americans that are living in Ukraine, you need to get out, because the State Department has already said, they've already let it be known, that once the bullets start flying, if you're an American and you're in Ukraine, you're on your own. okay? And they've already most certainly set a precedence for this in Afghanistan. And so they're saying it again. If you're in Ukraine and we were to warn you, you need to get out, and you're in there and the bullets start flying, you're on your own. We cannot evacuate you. And so again, the president was saying the same thing, pleading for Americans to get out because it's getting serious. And he actually went on to say that this could be a world war, that when, bullets basically start flying between America and Russia, that the world is going to change at that point. This is coming from the president's own mouth. We've had updated intelligence, apparently. Where it came from, nobody knows. We're just supposed to believe what they tell us. But at first they were saying that they thought that Russia might invade by February 15th, because apparently that's when the ground will be frozen over there and it's easier for the tanks to roll across. They said it might happen after the Olympics, and now they're saying that the most recent intelligence is that they believe that Russia will invade before the end of the Olympics. Within days, even maybe this weekend, even is what they're saying, to be terrified of that. Norway is saying the same thing. They've released information saying that their intelligence confirms this. Now, what's strange about this is that the Ukrainian government, the president of Ukraine, has said just recently, like the last day, that this is all hype, that it's not that bad. That he disagrees with what Biden is saying, that the people don't need to start running away and pulling out, even though as Israel and Italy and several other countries are pulling out their citizens. They're telling them to get out, and they're pulling their citizens out of Ukraine. We have the Ukrainian government saying it's not that bad, calm down. And so I think for a lot of Americans, we're sitting there trying to figure this out. Who's right here? Is neither party right? Is someone a little bit more right than the other? One thing to put this in perspective, here is a list of news articles going back to 2016. And that's just shortly after Russia, the last time Russia invaded Ukraine. These are news articles every year talking about Russia buildup of troops near Ukraine. Russia is moving troops on the border of Ukraine. Russia is 10,000 troops, 90,000 troops, 100,000 troops, 50,000 troops are moving troops on the border of Ukraine. There's a troop buildup. So to put it in perspective, it's not really that unusual for Russia to be moving troops and building up troops along the border with Ukraine. It sounds to me like our government, and probably the entire West, they really want a war. They need that right now. They need it because they need some distractions. The president himself certainly needs the distraction because nothing is going his way. The recent poll numbers have come out, and it's showing that he is polling, his approval rating is below 40%. And this one right here is the big one that everyone's talking about. When people were asked, is there anything that you approve of? What have you? Can you say that since he has been president, since Biden has taken office, what can you say? How much of you can say that you approve of anything? And 56% of Americans said that there is nothing that they approve of, that he's not done one thing since he's been president that they approve of or liked. Now, this poll came from the Communist News Network, so it's unlikely that, this is a conservatively slanted poll. So things don't look good for him right now. He's kind of losing favor in all areas. People are absolutely fed up with the whole, scare. They're wanting it to be over. In fact, it's so much so that all these liberal states and cities are just waking up one day and saying, we're dropping the whole thing. We're just going to drop it. We're just going to drop all the mandates. You can just go back to normal. Everything's back to normal. Surprise! It's all back to normal. It's funny because the last time when the first lockdowns happened, when they started to release some of those restrictions, they were letting people know ahead of time. They were saying, things like, well, by the end of this month, if case counts going down to a certain level, or if so many people get then we'll start slowly backing off of certain restrictions and stuff. Not this time. A lot of these cities and a lot of these states, they're just flat out coming out publicly and saying, oh, guess what, guys? It's all over. It's done. Go back to normal. Even though the official story, the official science is saying that's too early not to do that. World Health Organization, FDA, CDC, Dr. Fakey, all of them are saying it's probably a little too early. You're jumping the gun on this. So we've got all these areas of the country that's been very favorable to the White House, the Biden administration's policies on this, are now all of a sudden backtracking and saying, oh, we got to get out. We got to get out. I'm sure this is being orchestrated. I know a lot of people are looking at this as a victory, and I guess in a way it is. But I think in the long run that there's some orchestration here. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I don't think it's because they want it to be open and free for the upcoming midterm elections, because if it's all open and free, then it's going to make it really difficult to make the case that we need to do mail-in ballots. And so I think that we're probably going to, my theory is anyways, is that, this is all going to be, oh yes, we've listened to all the disgruntled citizens and we've allowed it to all go back to normal, and then boom, oh, it's bad again. It's really bad. It's way worse than before. We've got all these countries now talking about this weirdness with HIV, lots of false positives and even actual cases. And there's just a lot of weirdness going on with it. And all of a sudden, we've got the World Health Organization and a few others saying that they believe that there's still more variants out there, and that some of them could be much more worse than what we've recently gone through. And so then all of a sudden it's going to get bad again, and people will be really afraid because the government's going to say, hey, we listen to you. Even against our better judgment, we listen to you, and this is what happens. Now we got to clamp this thing down right before the elections. And because the problem is right now, the problem that they're having is that the people aren't afraid of it. Vast majority of the people aren't afraid anymore. And fear is the biggest thing that they need. They need that fear. They need to play off of that fear. And conservatives and liberals alike across the country are starting to wake up and realize this isn't something to really be afraid of anymore. So many people over the last few weeks have gotten things, and not felt too good for a few days, and then they were okay, and they realized that this isn't something to be afraid of anymore. And that's not good for the people that's in power. They need that fear. They need to play off of that fear. And so with the distractions going on in Europe, the really, really bad poll numbers coming out, and then all the little, we're going to let you go back to normal. We're going to, bow down and give in to you, oh, and you should be thankful that we've listened to you. I think that there's something else at play here, folks. So don't get too celebratory just yet. The trucker whole thing is still going on, and it is heating up fast. The language coming out of Canada and Canadian government officials is extremely harsh and forceful. And I suspect that when and if that starts to happen here in the United States, the response from government officials will be even more aggressive and forceful. So it's like we're watching a ticking time bomb happen right before our eyes. And I think most of us, we're this guessing game of what's going to go off first. What's going to happen? We know in the end it's not going to be too good. We know in the end it's going to be a, and some bad things are going to happen. It's just mostly a guessing game right now of what's going to happen first and how it's going to play out. Regardless of that, you've got to continue to get prepared, folks. Get your food stocked up, get all your things in order, the things that you need to be doing. Get ready for putting out lots of food this year. That's going to be essential. Make sure you've got seeds and garden tools and all that kind of stuff laid out, because with food prices going up. Another big volcano went off the other day. Geomagnetic storms are getting worse, knocking satellites out of the sky. I suspect with all that, including inflation and supply chain problems and protests, growing your own food this year is going to become more critical than it's ever been in your lifetime. So get ready for that also. All right, folks, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.